And now I will show you or demonstrate how we can design or develop mobile applications using our tools. Yeah. So I will be switching between some kind of documentation and live demonstration of the modeler and the mobile devices, which I have now connected to my computer. So I will start sharing my screen now. So hopefully now you should see this initial slides here. Can you hear me well? Okay, so
there is some
increase my volume.
A little bit some problems, some disturbing noise in the background, but please continue. We can see.
It cracks a bit the audio. I'm not sure whether you're using a headset or something like that. A bit of cracking. It's okay. We can hear you, but there's a bit.
Okay. Okay.
It is better now.
It's clean now, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So, I would like to give some overview for which components the system maybe is composed of. So it means that the PROCE Mobile suite consists of the modeler. I don't know if I should maybe make it bigger, or you can see it well also in this mode, so we can easily switch between slides. Okay, so basically we have a modeler or the designer of the mobile applications for Windows and the mobile clients. It means the native applications for Android, Windows 10 and also iOS. So using the modeler, you create standalone applications which can also contain built-in custom JavaScript functions or some custom visual styles. And you can also build in some specific templates for calling your own services if they do not meet or do not follow our maybe specification of the transporting layer. I mean the structure of the JSON, XML, HTTP calls, and so on. But these are technical details which you can maybe follow later on. So it means that to develop a simple applications, you only need to download and install our modeler, and this is all you need maybe to develop and test the application on your computer. I can switch to the modeler. So see it. Now this is the main screen of the modeler, and it contains everything that we need to develop and deploy or test our mobile application. So means the mobile applications that we have in mind, it's a PROCE mobile application which typically consists of several screens. It means that, for example, here you see that the specific mobile client for example, Android or Apple iOS can sort of play these mobile applications we develop, and in this native mobile application, we have a collection of the mobile apps we develop using our modeler here. So it means that each mobile app is let's say, a discrete unit that contains of several screens that follow this business process or BPM structure or maybe process, and each app contains, for example, 1, 2, or more screens that you navigate in your process. For example, let's say that we have a process that, for example, an operator in a production goes to some machine, maybe scans some QR code and finds out what is the amount of some material on some stock, or maybe switch on some machine or switch off on, or maybe get some status and so on. So it means that we have a collection of mobile apps which we can deploy to the devices and also update from this repositories or these portals my colleague was talking about, but we will come to this later. So, for example, let's create a very simple application so that we know how it works. Like, let's say this hello world, like it's very simple. So, in this first screen of the modular, I can show it also here. We have all, or maybe all the basic tools we need to create our application, like adding some basic screen elements like text labels, inputs, buttons, checkboxes, and so on. Then we can give the application some name so that we know, yeah, when we deploy it to the mobile device, so that we know that this is our application, like the hello world and so on. So let's have some label here, for example, or some text input. I can click the element and see the properties on the right side. I can rewrite it, for example, to hello world and press apply. I see it here. And pressing the test button here, I can see the live preview of the application directly here in this modular, and also the log console, where I see all the details of what is happening in the background behind this process. So I can press the stop button here to return to the design mode. I can add more elements like checkboxes or images, buttons. I can also give it some specific size, like just the half size, so that it can place and drag and drop and move the elements on the screen according to our needs. Yeah. We can also add more screens to our process, because initially every application consists only of 2 screens, which is the initial screen where the process starts processing. It means we're also seeing it here in this document, that when we choose the app from our app menu or the application list in our mobile application, we jump to the initial screen and then to the first visible screen and so on, because the initial screen allows us to do some hidden processing at the beginning of the application, like selecting some data and showing it on the next screen in some maybe table or labels, input, and so on. So when I press this preview button, I already see that my application has been enhanced by this checkbox and image component here. And we also have this text input and text label and a button, which currently does nothing because there is no maybe action sequence or action flow behind this button. And this brings us to the next topic, that all the actions in our apps are hidden behind buttons. It means that when a user presses a button, there is always a target screen, because when we press a button, we jump most typically to the same screen, but we can also jump to our other screens, like I add some more screens here. And when I choose our button now, we can select more target screens. Like when I press this button, I jump to the screen S2. So it means these elements are named automatically, like this is screen S1, screen S2, and so on. And also the components which are present on the screen 1 are automatically named like S1 output 1, S1 picture 1, so that means P1, S1 checkbox 1, S1 input 1, so it's S1 I1, or S1 button 1, so it's S1 B1. When we are on the screen 2 and at some elements, it's S2 O1 and so on. So it's easy and simple. So it means that we already talked about this initial screen, which is initially hidden. You see this, it only contains the initial button, which is marked as auto-click. It means that if such a button is detected by the engine, it's automatically processed and we jump to the first initial visible screen, which is this S1. So it means that we are on the screen S1 when we start the process. We can immediately deploy this process also to mobile device. We can do it later, but it's very easy because I have this click publish button here. I just press it and this process is immediately exported to the cloud. And I get this QR code which contains just the process ID. If I scan it using our mobile application, it immediately downloads to the mobile app or mobile engine, and it works on the mobile phone. I can also switch directly now to my other computer where I also have attached my mobile devices, and I can show it. Yeah. Share. And you should now see my two mobile phones here. On the left side, you see, yes, now you see the Android device, and on the right side is the iOS device, and the icons are client applications for Android. I will start it up, and also for iOS. See, I can switch to my modeler here. I will publish the process, and I can just for the quick demo, I will press this import button and import this simple applications by scanning the QR codes to the mobile app, and it immediately starts processing. Yeah. And when you see this initial screen, you see that we have our checkbox here and the image component and also the inputs. So you see that it looks the same on both devices. The left side is Android and the right side is iOS. You can also use the Windows 10, but I do not have this attached to my computer because maybe it's not so easy to set the Windows 10 screen. Yeah. Okay. So I press this button. It does nothing currently, but we can change it later. So, as we have already seen, or maybe I was talking about this client app, you see, contains a list of already imported mobile apps that we have developed either for some customers or for some maybe demo purpose. But you see that I can choose some app and skip directly to some application which maybe does some barcode scanning or maybe calls some web services. Like I press this button here and call some service. There's some response to some table. You see. So that's so that we can see how it looks like when we have a list of applications on our mobile phone. It means that this is the import screen using which I can import the mobile apps either individually by scanning this QR code from the modeler, or we can also install multiple apps in one step by scanning the portal repository QR code, which we can also maybe check later. So I will share my other computer here now. Sure. Now we get back to our document. So we have seen the client application with the list of mobile apps that we have imported. So we saw that the process navigation works like this, that we have a set of screens in each individual app, which we can navigate and execute some actions behind this button. We have also already seen this main interface that we can test the apps. We can put some elements on screen. We also have this application name here at the top. So if I put some Hello World app name here, it means that the app will be seen in this application list with this name, this Hello World. Yeah, simple. Then we have these buttons, which is most important component maybe because when I press a button, it can execute a sequence of actions which are executed, like you see here, in this order of execution. It means that each action is executed exactly in the order that has been designed in the modeler. And this brings us to maybe the first example applications that we have, and this simple app just calls some anonymous web application programming interface on the internet. I can start it up. You see that I have a button here like Load Artworks. It just calls some web API on the internet. It gets the response here. It's in JSON format. We process the response in our application and load it to our table here. we can select an item and show an image with some online gallery. I don't know. We can also demonstrate it on our mobile phones, and then I will show you the details behind this and how this app makes the call and how it does the processing of the response. So I will switch to my other computer to show it on mobile phones. Yeah. So we have both our Android and iPhone device here. So my apps. So from the application list, I can choose this. This application is this Rigs Museum. It's a simple app that calls some web API that doesn't follow the structure of our request response format. So we just call the service here, and we get the response. We just choose some items here and display the image. It should just show some item from the gallery based on this JSON response. So hopefully you see it because it's some image. Yeah.
Yes, it's working.
Okay. So I get back to the app list and I switch back to the modeler to show you how this works. So okay. I also have a simple document with this. Okay. So this is the simple app that calls some web application programming interface. And I will show you in modeler how it works exactly, but if needed later, we have also some nice documents like this one, which documents the exact functionality of this sample app, how it does the request and response processing. So we can take a quick look at it now in modeler. You see, this is the only screen in this app because the initial screen again takes us just to the first visible screen, and we have just the back button like this exit. It only does executing this exit system function, which quits the single mobile app to the menu, to the list of application. Then we have some text label. You see, this is the text label. You see it here at the top. When we press this load artworks button, we call some service on the internet. Yeah. So when I choose this button at the design time, you see there is a sequence of actions that are executed exactly in this order. So we call some web application programming interface here. You see this is the URL of the service. In this URL, I can also use variables because I haven't mentioned it here, but all these screen elements with these internal names like S1, B1, as means screen 1, button 1, it also can be used as a variable in the process. It means that I can also use it as a variable. So it means that, for example, value of some text input, I can also use everywhere in the process.
Boris, may I interrupt you? Can you put some input field there that you will demonstrate how easy it is to make some change in the application, that we will switch from the fixed input. You will have input field and you will put the value in this web API call. Instead of this fixed text fangok, you will put there this input field. Okay?
Ah, yes. Because this service URL also contains some detail, like some parameters here. For example, this some query equals to, so I can maybe take it away. I can put this variable of this new text input that we have in place on this left side. This is S1 input 1, S1 I1, S1 I1. So it means that instead of the original text, this parameter, this input text value will be used. So I will apply this here, and I will put this value that I've cut from this URL here. So it means that now we have this parameter here in this text input just for the demonstration purpose. And when we press this button and we call this service, so this part will be automatically put here as a value from this text input label here. So,
Boris, can you deploy the application to the mobile phone shortly to run?
Yes.
And give there some other value, maybe Rembrandt or something, and you will show how it is working in the real time.
Yes, okay. So I will switch to my other computer when I share my mobile devices. Okay. Now, yes, you see this mobile apps here. I will.
Sorry for some interruption. There is some mistake. This percentage sign is not needed. It was only in the by copy.
Okay. So I will publish the app. I will scan it on the Android device, for example. So now you see that we already have this change application here with this input text field. I don't know whether this database contains also some other artists, but maybe this.
Give Rembrandt there.
So, okay. So we'll see if it does something. Oh, you see, yeah. So we have a list of matching items containing this Rembrandt. Maybe there's also some image. Oh yes, nice, yes. I can also scan the process on the other device.
Oh, you have seen, sorry, Boris, for interruption. You have seen how easy can you deploy the changes in the application without any compilation, without any complex deployment process. It means that if you test and develop the application, you can do it in dialogue with the customer to look for some optimal way to iterate towards the optimal final application. And later you can optimize the application at any time very easily. And the next point, you don't need to test it. If you make changes, then there is no change in the native application in the runtime environment. It is only change of the model. Therefore, you can be sure that the application is working on any device. There is no need to test the application after each change you implement in the model. There are very important points to save the effort in the maintaining of the application and maintaining of the changes of the applications.
Yes. So now we are back in the modeler where we can change this application. I can put it into the original state. If we want, we can maybe put this back here. And we can dismiss this input element here, so we have the original state. See, okay. And
okay, Boris. Now I would like to ask you that show the most important point. Then in this case, we have connected some public web API, which is provided by this Netherlands Museum, and we have accessed this service, which is available on internet using the JSON get method. But normally we put these input and return fields into the service call. In this case, we didn't do it. We use only the web API call. And in the next action, which is the JavaScript function, we try to extract the data from the JSON response because, as you have seen in the log console, this response is very complex, and Boris will explain it to you.
Yes, when we call this web application programming interface, we get this kind of response. It's a sort of a JSON response. It means there's some JSON object that can be converted from this text to an object in JavaScript, for example. And if we want to populate our screen elements like this table here, we need to put it into our format so that we can process it, because this web application interface doesn't follow the structure of our typical request response in JSON or XML HTTP format, so that we just need to call the service and process the response manually or using our JavaScript function. It means, and this brings us to the following, that each application in a context of the PROCE Mobile can contain a built-in set of functions behind the button here. It means that you can embed or package any number of JavaScript functions with your mobile app. It means that the whole mobile app, this single one, can contain, for example, like 10 JavaScript functions and some other things like call templates and styles, but this can be discussed later. And back to our service call. We are calling the service, and then we are processing the response using our function. Then we are showing the table on the screen. It means that our function is named process response here. The type of the function is local. It means that it's executed locally on the mobile device. And what is important, our mobile apps are executed on the mobile device without the necessity of calling some web service behind it. It means that our mobile apps or the screens you see in these mobile apps are not generated by a web server. It means that when I navigate on this app screens, it doesn't call a web server. It's only processed on the mobile native client application like Android or iOS. So it means that we only call external services when needed or when you design it to do so. So it means that in this case we only call this external web application programming interface, and all the screens you see are generated directly on the mobile phone without the interaction with any other web server. So you do not need some specific web server that generates the screens on these mobile apps, because it's done on the mobile engine on the mobile phone directly. So it means we call our service and we process our response using this function here. It's very simple. It just takes the JSON response we have seen on this console. It's always present in this system variable. It means that the last response from our request is always stored as a string in this system variable. We just parse it into an object, and we can extract the data that we need from this object and populate in this loop. We populate our screen element, which we take here by the name of screen1 table 1 on the left side here. So we populate our table in this loop from this JSON object, taking the parameters that we need to show, like some artist name and maybe image name or so, and we just populate the table data here from this JSON object. So when we press this button again, float outwards, we'll call the service, take the JSON response, and you see that we are executing this process response function here. We take our table element and populate it with the data that we have taken from this JSON object. So it means that we click the tables, we have the details. We can also filter the data like Van Gogh or something like here. It's the list will only shrink based on our search string here. So it's very simple, and all you need is just this modular, and you can publish it directly to a mobile device. So this was an example how we can call some random web application interface on the web and process the response some custom way. So because in an ordinary way, when we call some service, it is done. I had some examples here, because when we call some service, we can put some input and export parameters, and that the engine does it automatically. You mean if you call the services that we have developed or that maybe use some R component like some our application servers and connectors, it always follows the either XML or JSON format that is optimally designed by us, that can contain scalar variables and also input and output tables. It means that you can put any number of input parameters to this service call. You see that this is some import parameter called img. We will use this parameter from the screen, this some picture element, and from the response of the service we will extract the status parameter that will go to the screen one output to this some text output here. Yeah.
So Boris, thank you. Maybe we have presented this simplest way how to integrate the backend systems using the web API, and now please switch to the more complex scenario, how to access the SOAP-based backend services.
Yes,
and
yes.
As we know, SOAP is quite complex protocol, and therefore we are using the integration based on the integration server to create the SOAP call, but from the mobile phone we are communicating using some simplified protocol which is based on the principle of XML remote function call. If you know it, there are the input parameters, the return parameters, and bidirectional tables which can be transferred between the front end, which is the mobile phone, and backend system. And on the integration server, this simple call, which input and return parameters, is modified to the correct SOAP call in background. And Boris will show you how it is working now.
Yes. So we have a simple application that will call some SOAP service on the internet, and we do not call it directly, but instead we have a simple Node.js setup. So I have a simple Node.js web server here that contains some maybe simple set of our functions here that can call the external service and transform the response to our liking, and we can then receive it back to our mobile application. So the example maybe just take some barcode and make a request to my local Node.js server, which will then later call some internet service, the UPS code database that will transform the barcode to some, I don't know, some maybe stock keeping unit or something like this, some item from some product database. Okay. So I can briefly start it up here directly in the modeler so that we can see that we have some text input here that we can enter the barcode or scan it using our phone camera, and then we call the service. I can do it now. Yes, you see that I also have a console from the Node.js server on my computer here, and we have called this JSON request, like function name was this get product. The function is locally on my Node.js setup here. Get product. Yeah, this is this one. We just call this service using SOAP call, get the response. You see that on this console, now we have this result as a response. We process it and display it on the screen. We can also test it on our mobile device, but before we do it, we can check what it does behind this button. So we are calling a local service on my computer. This is the Node.js server listening on port 98. We call this function name using JSON post. See? And we are putting the import parameter. It means that this is the ingoing parameter into the service call, which is the name called, and the value will be the value of the input on our screen here, which is the barcode value. You can type it either manually or scan it on the mobile phone. We can show it later. And we get a response, which we are returning to some output elements on the screen, and then we set our document element to show the resulting details of this product that barcode we have scanned. Okay. So yeah, okay, we can export it to the cloud and check it on our mobile phones. So now we get this QR code, which we can also, by the way, copy to the clipboard and maybe send it by email or publish it to users, and they can scan it in production and immediately see the process running on their mobile phones. So it's very quick. Okay, I will share my mobile phone screens. You see that now I can import the process to my mobile phone.
If someone of you has installed this runtime environment from the App Store or from Google Play on your mobile phone, you can share this application with us.
Okay, now I can scan the barcode. I can also scan it off my screen here. See that I scan the barcode. Okay. Now the value from the barcode jumped directly to my input, text input here, and I will press the search button, which will call my service on my computer, hopefully, because there is a fixed IP address, so sometimes the wireless network gets stuck, and I need to check if I still have the same IP address. I'm checking it.
Well, if you start the backend service again, you will see the IP address which has been assigned to your service on your phone.
Yes, yes, yes.
It is some small problem that we are using now for the demo application, the local computer of Boris, not some regular backend system, and therefore this assignment of the IP addresses is a little bit tricky, and therefore this application maybe cannot access this backend service. But it is working normally.
Also this database, sometimes the codes are changing, so maybe the code is not valid anymore. So it's also possible. I will try to save some other image of the barcode, because we are doing it on a live system online on the internet, and the barcode are sometimes not valid anymore. So
Boris, have you checked the console of this backend service you have started?
Yes, I have checked it, and it returns an empty response. Yes, because the code is not valid anymore. Yeah, the barcode that we have scanned. Yeah.
Okay.
So it changed.
You know, this mobile phone is calling the web service on the Boris computer, and this Boris computer is calling the SOAP service in the USA, which is providing the data for this UPC code.
Yes, but we can take another code. We'll see if this is working. Oh, yes. Okay. So this product is working now. It's strange how they change it frequently. So now I got some response. If I press the detail, I see that I get some product that is hidden behind this barcode with some, garlic bread. Yeah. Okay, you see it now, yeah. Okay. Do you see it? Yes?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. So I can maybe switch back to my other computer so that we can see the response on the Node.js console. Share. So see, this was the request and response that we have called. Yeah. So we get some request and we get some response with the URL of the image of the product behind, and in our application we set the document properties on the screen, so it means that the document element has been loaded with these details like this URL of this product. So this was this SOAP integration using the Node.js setup as an integration server that we have called, and it called for us some other service which maybe contain the data that we needed to transform back to our mobile application. So I can show it here in this document if needed. We can also maybe share it later because this describes how this exactly works. So we are set up here in the application, how we call it and how we call this integration server. In this case, this was this Node.js setup, and it calls the backend service for us and return the response so that we can display it on our mobile application. For the barcode scanning, it's very simple. We just have a simple system action like scan code, and it opens the camera and detects the barcode and put it into some screen element that we want to. So in this model, it looks very simple because we just put some button here and use the system actions. We also have some other system actions like disable elements, enable elements, set up documents, maps, do some increment, decrements, show messages, and so on. It's simple. You can also, for example, also show message here like test, or that we are scanning the code or something like this instead of the scanning. See that, yeah, test. So it can be changed very simple from scanning barcodes to some other things, or maybe putting some other system actions like transferring values from one element to other elements, and maybe using some system variables like times and user profiles data, location, and so on, and maybe also conditions and condition blocks. It means that we can exclude some part of the transaction when the condition is not met. So it's easily to do some complex stuff like maybe using some alternative transactions and using some specific conditions and reordering and disabling some actions and so on. So it's easy to change and to do some complex things if we need. So in case you maybe want to see some details behind these examples and behind these integration examples, we have some documentation and some more maybe material for this, so it's easy to follow and to change and customize this kind of processes. It's also easily, I don't know, maybe the processes can also easily be customized by placing the custom styles, so we can also have nice processes, nice looking applications like we also have here. I can also share it on a mobile phone, but it's easy to change the styles and to put some custom styles to the application. So not only you can put some custom functions and execute it directly on a mobile phone, you can also put some specific CSS styles to your application, so you can have some nicely looking applications like this one here. And it's very simple because you can, let's see, you can put some simple style sheets here and change the fonts and backgrounds and so on, so it's also easily done. And this is also packaged with your app with this single application file, which is typically just 2 or 3 kilobytes in size, and it's being transported directly to mobile phone, containing everything that is needed for the mobile application, including the styles, the local functions, and also the calling templates, because you can also make your own specific calls following your specific format, like just maybe some simple one character call when you call some services, or maybe some specific signals or some select statements when you call also our components that can call directly the databases using ODBC on the server. So we can call SQL statements of any sort directly from the mobile devices. And You can also set the period of usability of the application, like it's only usable from tomorrow until the end of month and so on. When some cases are maybe like you're transporting the SMP transport and you only want that the app is valid until the end of the year, so you can set it and then the application vanishes from the mobile phone, so it can be controlled easily. And you know that users will not execute some transactions which are not longer present on the system, for example, after some transport or update of the backend services. Yes. Then testing. We already shown that in the modeler we have the design time and the runtime, so we can see the preview with the console as we have seen. And I don't know if we go now into the detail of the publishing using the portal repositories now, or do it later, or just maybe quickly mention it, how we can maybe publish multiple applications, because
yes.
we also...
Boris, now according to the agenda, we have now short introduction of integration of SAP, and after this you can show the principles of the deployment using the portals and QR code.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for the introduction of the development. There are many possibilities which have not been mentioned because of the limitation of the time we have now, but we can focus on this in specific sessions if needed, or you can find the needed information in our documentation. But in general, you have seen that our applications mobile applications are composed from the components, from the building blocks, and not only the user interface, which consists of several screens with visual components. We have also specific components like maps, geolocations, and documents, and so on, which have not been mentioned now. But the whole application consists of these screens with visual components, but it is typical also in other mobile development application platforms. What is different in Process Mobile is that also the application logic, which is called as action sequence, which is some kind of sequence flow, which is behind the button. Using the button, you trigger the application logic, which consists of the blocks of the application logics. It's on the right side, and some of them are the services or conditions and different system functions, or your custom functions, which can be put directly into application to allow the offline mode working without internet connection. It means that we compose from the building blocks not only the user interface but also the application logic, and it is not common in other mobile development application platforms. But you are not locked in by the elements we are providing you in context of this modeler. By the way, it is continuously extended according to the new requirements or needs, but you are not locked in this set of components for user interface and application logic we are providing to you. You can use your functions, which are in JavaScript. You can use the whole syntax of JavaScript, and you have the system variables. You can access then for example, the components of the web services, request and response, to get the data or put the data to the backend systems. And you can also modify the screen elements using the names of the screen elements and populate the content or the behavior or visibility or different attributes. This is the main principle of our visual modeler, and last but not least, you are using one model for any platform currently available: iOS, Android and Windows.